grandfather used to fix watches right here in this corner on the, like if you go, there's a nurse that bought that house. Like if you go by the railroad tracks, that one house that's in the dip that they redid that's back there, that's what he used to fix watches and clocks out of the back of his home.
Really? The little house that's kind of tucked right up by the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
And the little...
Yeah, his name was McCowan, and he used to fix clocks.
Wow.
And then, yeah.
That was your grandfather?
Mm-hmm, that's my grandmother, well, that's my grandmother's dad.
Okay.
And then my grandfather's dad was a Baptist minister, but I don't know a lot about that because I was older.
Yeah.
You know, and I was bored with that kind of information, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, my parents met in Illinois because a lot of people from the South went up north to work factory jobs, Armored Dial, Aurora, Illinois, big companies. And so they met there and then had a bunch of kids. And then I don't really know why. I was kind of back and forth my whole life. Like my sister Chelsea, who was in Athens, she's started at Maddie Thompson here. But me and my brother Seth are older. So that's why our accent's thicker. Still, yeah.
So you grew up back and forth between New Albany and...
I was back and forth between Illinois and Mississippi until I was about 7th grade, 7th or 8th grade, and then we stayed. Graduated high school year early, and I got out because I could. But small towns drag you back, so that's kind of what that is. Yeah, they love to drag you back. So
you've been pretty active in the restaurant business in New Albany.
Yeah, well, my whole life. So yeah, started at Taylor's Place at 15.
Wow.
Pansy Taylor and James Taylor, their treat.
What's your history with this building? And this, the restaurant history of it.
Yeah, so when the original 4 owners started the Rainey, I was between moving back from Dallas, and one of the owners, Chuck, that owns Van Acken's, my sister said they were looking for a fine dining type of manager, but I was doing fine dining managing in Dallas already. So she was wanting me to move here. So.
And you did?
Yeah, because at that time, Julie, her youngest daughter, was living at St. Jude. So then I guess the rest is history. That late night lawyer office meeting turned into me managing, taking over for a while, and then just trying to make the Rainey something for downtown. I think the building is kind of historically a pillar of downtown, so I think everything that gets put here is kind of important to the city, so we've kind of just tried to grow whatever business is here. So
tell me about the history of the building that we're in.
So Kat's Pharmacy was originally in this, what's the main dining. I don't know a lot of that history, but I do know that it was just kind of the pillar of the pharmacy on the corner. And then, when it was originally the Rainey building, it was like on the other side when it was the restaurant. It was really just homage to Paul Rainey, which, had the hotel across the street and built a railroad track right there. So I'm not sure at that time if those buildings were connected, but I know a lot of people, my grandfather and great grandfather's age, always talk about Kat's Pharmacy.
Have you been here for the renovation, for pretty much the whole renovation of the Kat's Pharmacy side?
Yeah. So we've been here for that, which it was already a little bit renovated by Tom previously because the old restaurant had used it for some spillover dining. So there was already some stuff that was done. But we've churched it up a bit since then. So.
Have you enjoyed being a part of the renovation?
I think it's always interesting to see something transform overall for a restaurant. Like it's hard to look at an idea and see it to fruition all the way. You have to be pretty visual to know. So I'm not super visual in that creative aspect. So to say this is what I want it to look like and the how to get there has taken a lot of hands. So it's interesting to see that full circle kind of.
Yeah. So who would you say had the vision of how this is going to transform?
I think it was just a combination of people who kind of sat down and said, what are we looking for? What can we provide locally? Where's there a hole to fill? I think between Moises and, his whole family and all the partnerships he has, and then his mother-in-law, who does a lot of the interior designing. I think she's got a lot of good creative vision when it comes to aesthetically. So she's been kind of the late night thinking about where things should go.
Do you, having such a background in the restaurant business, do you think about all of those weird little technical things like, now how is the flow? Is this gonna be good to have this here? Like, does your brain kind of work like that?
Yeah, I think to a fault most of the time. I think when I think about it, I think about Friday night at 7 o'clock when everything crashes. What is then how to get through that? I don't think about the nice 4 o'clock, few people, nice to see you. I usually think about how's everyone's experience going to be if a bus pulls up out front.
Oh, you go that far.
And how can we circumvent those issues previous to that?
Wow.
When we talk about like El Agave and like Moses owning El Agave, like half of what El Agave does is if a bus was to pull up out front, they know the kitchen can handle that.
Yeah.
And so how can we, create good dinner experiences for people?
Even when 80 people pull up.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly.
Sure, because that's the only way it works.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting that's what your brain thinks about.
Yeah, because I wish the naivety of being 18 and being like, it's just so fun and hi everyone that comes and sees me, that I know it's like we've all cried in a walk-in cooler in the middle of a busy Friday shift, and I think that's what gives you the grit that you need to continue showing up, So
if you can make it through that,
you
can make it through lots of other life, lots of other things like
that. I do really believe that the restaurant industry really prepares people, just the multitasking, the customer service, the food, the responsibility of feeding people. I think that it does transcend to so many other things. I don't think people give a lot of credit for how intricate it can actually get to do it correctly. So
So when people say everybody should work in the restaurant industry at least one summer, like young people.
Yeah, it's a very different environment from any 9-to-5 job. So I do think thinking quickly on your feet and learning on the go is so imperative in the restaurant industry, and not everyone knows right away, and that's just because it's growing, but how to learn that, right? So I mean, there's a lot of times, I started off as a training manager, and there's a lot of times I would see people going to a table, getting a drink order, going to the drink station, then going to another. It's like, we're making so many crosses, you can really consolidate these steps to make your life so quick. And it's funny how that really, with the kitchen, with the service, with the bar, the step consolidation, 2 extra steps can cost you an hour at the end of the night behind,
Yeah.
So it is a dance.
That's great.
Especially when you have 5 people behind the bar and we're all like, behind, oops, my bad, sorry. Yeah, you're hitting each other.
So it takes choreography.
Yeah. Honestly, I've seen bartenders at the busiest places in the country that work together so well, they just know each other's movements, and it really is fun to watch, interesting to watch how they interact. And you throw a newbie in there and they're all like, get out of my bar.
They feel like they're in the way.
Yeah, you're messing up. Yeah, because it is. At the beginning, we're all clumsy, a little baby deerish,
Are you responsible for training the staff here?
Yeah.
And I guess in this industry, that's a never-ending job because it turns over
Yeah, so there's a lot of turnover. I think everyone experiences nowadays a lot of turnover, but I think there's a lot of, I think it's a combination of people that love it and they're trying to find the restaurant that works for them. And then there's a combination of people who are kind of trying to get into it because maybe it's a flexible schedule and they have other, commitments, college and whatnot. But I think that in the restaurant industry, you hope to train people, and then if they grow out of you, that's still a good thing, right? They kind of grew and moved on. Then you also like having your core people that, even for me, I still have really great conversations with people I started with 20 years ago, even like Nate kind of helping me a part of this. It's interesting because I worked with Nate when I was 15, so we're both kind of, it's funny that way, how we still communicate about old things and where you've come.
Who is Nate?
Nate Taylor, he owns Nate's Fish and
Okay,
Steak in Akron.
okay.
Yeah.
Have you, is this your first time to work with Moises?
No, this is my 912th time to work
Okay.
with Moses. I don't know. I've worked for him for El Agave for 4 years probably. I do think curating a good team is what makes people strong, and I do think some of the things we always have to grow out of and we have to learn about ourselves is like how to learn from each other effectively. We have a lot of people with different experiences that can teach you different things. And I even tell staff this all the time. I'm like, somebody that maybe they know less than you, but their environment has taught them certain things. You can always learn something from somebody. So I think having the right people in place and keeping a close staff and allowing people to make decisions and mistakes and then pivoting is really important. So I think that he just surrounds himself by a lot of people that are gonna, be in the service industry. They like the service industry, and also they have a different view to offer.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people grow the most.
Learn from one another.
Yeah, I mean, if it were just me solitarily in the woods with a restaurant, I know what it would look like for the next 35 years, right? It would look very similar, right? Because there wouldn't be limited growth there. Here's me with no internet, just doing what I think, right? That's how we, add people in and say, hey, here's a cool idea. What if we did this instead? So I really think that the team environment creates some cool yin and yang. Sometimes more yang. But
Well, what are you most excited about?
Man, I think, I don't want to say like something for New Albany, but I really do think to be doing something interesting and creating some new experience for people locally that maybe they don't travel and get to experience is going to be great. And I also think creating an environment that is not stuffy for people to feel comfortable coming and trying and exploring drink items, menu items. And I think for me, that's what I miss about being in a big city, is being able to find the cool new craft cocktail or the chef driven, food item that's kind of unique that you don't see. So I don't know, I think just to see New Albany transform from this potentially, I think that it's important to have some founding differences. I think with alcohol hadn't been that long in New Albany. So I do think that we're getting more places that serve alcohol, but for me, just from a bar perspective, I like the elevated bar experience. So for me, I'm interested to see how that we start here and how other people take it, and it transcends overall. More people don't have to drive to Oxford. You know what I mean? They can come to New Albany, or not Memphis, they can come to New Albany. We don't always have to go to Miami for a good drink.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I'm just excited about what changes this will invoke.